In today's show, we discuss another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, and we talk about the Mothman. Was the Mothman an omen or just a prank? And we also talk about Bodmin Moor. Was there a beast roaming there?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
Am I going to be brave? I'm going to ask you. Shall I risk it? You've been quite mellow of late, which is good, but I'm going to risk it today. Come on, say hello to our audience.
Yeah, whatever. Hello, audience, whatever, right? Hey, Tony, do you know the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a wonderful saying, but it's a terrible way to find out you're adopted.
Oh. Oh, why am I laughing? That's terrible.
Imagine being called in by the person you think is your dad and it starts, well, one man's trash is
That's terrible. Oh dear.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I do struggle to find you the ones you'll enjoy, you know. So.
I mean, I'm laughing at it, but that was bad. I don't know what our audience think, but oh dear, they must be dreading this part of the show. But
Speaking
anyway.
of, by popular demand, I'll stop that goodbye at the end of the show.
Okay.
I've heard back from a couple of people who are like, "Yeah, you want to stop that, man."
Yeah.
You Philistines. You're all Philistines, man.
Yeah.
I go out of my way to bring joy and happiness and this nice way of saying, goodbye, and you throw it back in my face. All right, okay, all right.
Anyway, in today's show, we discuss another one of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And well, time permitting, we'll see if we can get more than one in, but we'll start off with the Mothman. Was this an omen or actually a prank? Because it's got some leverage, but we'll discuss that. Taya, do you know anything about the Mothman before we get going?
Well, I once watched the movie.
Yes, there has been a movie about it, yes.
Starring the guy who became a Buddhist and was once upon a time married to Cindy Crawford. I can't remember his name. I can see his face clearly.
Richard Gere.
That's the one.
Hmm.
Yes, I was once married to Cindy Crawford, which took me aback because I could have sworn in a stack of Bibles that he was one of them. It turns out he's not, which is weird. Anyway, a bit of a sidetrack there. I got sidetracked. What was I saying? Yes, I watched the movie, The Mothman, and was astonished to find out afterwards that some people were, was supposedly based on actual occurrences. Although I think there was a lot of leeway. The film took a lot of license with the topic. For one thing, just to make it more interesting, because the bare facts of the case to me are not interesting.
Okay.
I don't really sort of care that people in America yet again see something in the sky. I mean, fortunately, it's not probing them anally this time, but American fascination with their kinds. But it still boils down to a bunch of Americans. They see something weird and the bandwagon, and nothing much behind the story for me. Now, every now and then you come up with a gem of a thing, and I'm surprised by what you come up with. But I think this time I don't think you got anything. So if you do have something, I'll be interested to find out what you think you've done.
What was interesting about this case? I mean, if I can elaborate for our listeners and viewers who don't know this story about the Mothman, what happened was there was two couples actually that were in a car, and they were driving along. It was the evening, and all four of them saw this man-sized, what they could describe as a slender man bird, to put it in those terms. And they were gobsmacked. And this thing was about 6 to 7 feet tall. It had a wingspan open of several feet. And the thing that they all commented on was piercing red eyes. And this thing freaked them. Now, obviously, at night, people can wonder whether it's just them being, I don't know, by shadows or whatever it can be. They then got in the car and sped away, and this thing flew above their car, and they could see its wingspan, and they were absolutely frightened to their wits' end. Now, the thing is, it wasn't just these four people that saw this thing, and who also reported that this thing had these piercing red eyes.
In fact, you started from the middle of the story, not the beginning. The incident that you mentioned, according to my notes here, was on the 15th of November, 1966.
That's correct.
It says two married couples were driving around a defunct factory, the TNT plant.
Yes,
Shout
nothing to
out
do
to
with
the
our
TNT
show. It wasn't anything to do with us, obviously. It was World War II munitions, wasn't it?
Correct, correct. And they were driving around in the middle of the night. And my question is, why are two couples driving around in the middle of the night at a defunct factory?
Come on, does it take a lot of imagination? They weren't exactly that old a couple. They were a young couple. So they're driving around for a bit of, what's the word we can use? Hanky-panky. Yeah, hanky-panky.
Hoity-toity? Is that hoity-toity something else?
So yeah, they were in and around that area.
Or whatever. Smash a pumpkin.
Okay, I think people have got the gist of that. Yes, so
I made up the last one, by the way. I've never smash a pumpkin.
It sounded good.
No, but no, I'm not with you. I don't agree, because I think I got this married couples. Then they must have.
No, they were. I don't think they were married. They were. Oh no, you're right. One couple. You're absolutely right. They were both married. Yes.
Yeah. So two married couples. Why aren't you at home? If you're going to do that sort of thing, surely the privacy of your home is right. If you're doing wife swapping, privacy of your home is required. So alternatively, they were out there and they're going to smoke something.
We don't know any evidence of that.
No, I have zero. I'm just trying to. I'm just like, why are you driving? Yeah. I mean, why would you be driving out in the middle of nowhere? Okay. So if you're smoking something, might you be seeing something? Just I'm asking the necessary questions as a skeptic.
Well, absolutely right. I mean, you can certainly say that if they saw something weird, but the thing that seems to add more credibility to their account of the story is the fact that it wasn't just them that saw this thing.
There were the second set of people to see this thing, actually. The first set of people were grave diggers. Five grave diggers. I think it was September. Is this September of the same year? Which is November 15th. Am I mixing it up? September 1966. Five grave diggers. Now, excuse me. One question popped up to my mind. Why do you have five grave diggers in a town which in 2010 United States Census Bureau had only 4,350 people in it? That's one grave digger for every 800 individuals. Well, what's going on there?
Well, just jobs.
Sorry?
Just jobs. I mean, what can you say?
What do you? I mean, 4,000 people. How many people die in a year?
No, indeed. But
so you can't have
that may not be. They may not be their full-time job. They're just doing it part-time. So they have other jobs.
This is where you start having thoughts about this is all nonsense. It's not.
No, I mean, there's been examples of grave diggers doing out of hours work because they're digging the graves in the evening when they've obviously finished whatever day job they've got, and this is extra money. And a few of them
Extra money from how? How many graves are you digging in a year?
well,
You
it
can't
isn't
dig
many.
10 in a year, for goodness sakes.
It depends how much you
In a
earn.
town that's of that size, who's gonna how many people are dying?
Well, there's still going to be old people that will die eventually, but yeah.
Yeah,
Out of
10.
how many people did you say that town had?
4,350 in 2010. Funnily enough, in 2020, it had dropped to just 4,100.
Well, indeed, you can't have many in a town like that. I mean, I'd
No.
like to know for sure if that number is correct for
What
those number
number?
of people. And were they grave diggers for just the town or
It doesn't say.
surrounding areas? So,
In.
okay,
By the way, you haven't named the town yet. You know the name of the town?
the name of the town,
Yeah.
Point Pleasant.
Correct, in West Virginia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you skeptical about first off the four people
Yeah, what
who
was
were
it doing
both
out in the middle of
couples,
nowhere?
but then
And
the
they
grave
must have
diggers who
heard.
saw the same creature.
They saw it first.
Yes.
They were the first in the modern era, supposedly in the modern era, because I don't know how firm our information is about earlier instances.
Yeah.
But in the modern era, this in 1966, these grave diggers were the first people to see the so-called Mothman.
Yeah. And they described it very, very similarly to the four young people who were the two couples. So that would be strange in itself if they hadn't known one another, hadn't heard the reports of each other to recount a similar story of this creature with a similar wingspan, 7 feet, 6 to 7 feet tall, slender looking human bird.
There's no reason to suspect that they hadn't heard the story. I believe that the gravedigger's story got out. I think it was in the press, was it not? So people read newspapers, they're impressionable. They might have been
Possibly.
as high as kites on something or the other.
Yeah.
And glowing eyes or whatever. There's, and what is this psychological thing? Where a suggestion, somebody says, "Oh, could that be the Mothman?" And then it gets reinforced, especially when the people are recalling things. It's like a form of reinforcement.
Yes, yes.
Right? It's not confirmation bias, it's something else. It's something to do with the fact that from pareidolia, you say something and then I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
that confirms it
you
for
fill
me.
in the gaps
and then
you get
we have kind of like
influenced.
feedback loop or something. So again, I'm like, yeah. And I'm just, if they had been sitting on their front porches,
Yeah.
with glasses of tea and orange juice, whatever, I'd have been far more impressed. Like one couple had gone visiting the other couple, they were sitting on their front porches about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. They looked up and they saw this thing. Oh man, what's that?
Well, I don't know.
That's fine.
Why
but what the
would
heck are you guys doing out
location-
there?
Yeah, but
driving
that's
around
just
a defunct plant. Don't forget, this plant is defunct. I mean, you're up to no good, right? You're looking for privacy. Why?
okay. That, like you said before, you're now criticizing the messenger based on their surroundings. So you are doing what you accuse me of doing rather than looking at the message that they're delivering.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the basis of my saying they didn't see anything. That's not the message. That's not the basis of my saying that. The basis of my saying, which I'm going to come to eventually about the Mothman. I got other reasons for saying that. So
Okay.
I'm trying to lay a foundation of doubt against these people.
Okay.
Trying to say, well, why would they have seen something? So they might have seen something, but why would that have been the case? Now, for instance, about the grave diggers, I'm not really actually able to say anything apart from the fact that why are there 5 grave diggers in a small town? That's that doesn't impugn in any way their credibility. But to me, I'm not attacking the story itself. Are there really 5 grave diggers? I wasn't able to try to find their names and things like that. Go back to the actual newspapers. Do you have their names? Do you know for sure that they exist?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
do you? I'm
indeed, you
asking.
don't. We don't.
I'm asking
I
you.
don't know.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know. It's a report that we followed up on, but yeah, we've heard it, and yeah, we don't know. We have to take that on face value as that was what was previously described.
I
But
think it comes from a
also,
book written by. There are two books really that made
mm,
this case famous. One was written by a Lauren Coleman.
yeah,
Lauren being Loren, N for November. A man, and another man, Brian Dunning, Dunning.
oh,
And
okay,
I assume that the five grave diggers and this married couple and whatnot, it came from these two investigators writing their books. So I'm prepared to accept that for some weird reason, Point Pleasant had five grave diggers. I still don't know why. And these two individuals independently verified that because they wrote the stories much closer to the actual time of these sightings and observations.
yeah,
We're almost 5 decades away, aren't we? So,
indeed. I mean, after the two events, later on, apparently two volunteer firemen
mm,
also saw it, but they lay claim that it was just a huge bird that had large red eyes. They couldn't explain why it had large red eyes, but they likened it more to a bird than a
mm,
man,
mm,
but huge
mm.
nonetheless. It was still,
Like a condor. Condors are huge.
well, they didn't think it was a condor. What some people are speculating, it was a heron, a giant size heron, which is a little interesting. And
Our heavens brown.
well,
They're kind of white, aren't they? Aren't
they
herons
are.
white? So how can you mistake the color that Frank, that's starkly to go between brown and white. I mean, that's pretty hard to
Well,
do.
at night, I don't know. Because if you said these people saw it at night, if they shone lights at it, the redness of the eyes, could it not have been the eyes reflecting back? And you see it as
Did
red? I
anybody
don't
see my
know.
red eye the other day?
That was a red eye. That
That
was
was a
red.
red eye.
That
That
was
would
a
have
red
scared
eye.
anyone if they
Indeed,
shone a
indeed.
light into it. So was it
Yeah,
just
probably like that. Those of you that are listening to this obviously didn't see Tayo's red eye. It was red, 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 red. I'm glad it's all healed and you're better now. That's the
Thank
main
you.
thing.
But
Hmm.
but imagine if the bird just had conjunctivitis, like I had. So
On both eyes, yeah, maybe.
yeah, well, yeah, actually you can
I,
if it's
I,
fresh
I
water.
tell you, I tell you what was strange. There was, I'm going to quote him, Sheriff George Johnson, who was the county sheriff of Mason. He commented that he believed the sightings were due to an unusually large heron, but he termed it, and this are his words, and I apologize at the term he used. He called it a shite poke.
What the heck is that?
Goodness knows, it's another word for a huge heron, apparently, which is a strange word to
Oh, right.
use to
So that would be a
describe it.
practical. That would be a practical term for the bird, based upon its pecking into dung, looking for worms and things and insects.
Maybe.
So it's literal.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it literally does.
yeah, it does.
Hmm.
And he went on to say that, well, not him himself, but a contractor told the sheriff that if you aim a flashlight at creatures like this in their eyes will glow back like bicycle
Mm,
reflectors.
mm,
So they were trying to come up with an explanation to what these people had seen, that it could have genuinely been a huge heron, because they can have a large wingspan,
mm.
although not 6 or 7 feet tall, but still enough at night to not disorientate, but possibly throw, like what you said earlier, people see things when they don't, in the fact that it was dark, they see this creature, immediately the hairs on the back of their neck are up because they're fearful. They see something that isn't really that. It could have just been an unusually large heron,
Mm.
and so it freaked them out, and they ran off or sped off, etc., etc.
And of course, I'm glad that I told you the story, as you will recall. I was driving back from where was I driving back from? Just outside London. Well, I don't think it was Watford, but somewhere quite close by. Maybe not even Luton, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And I for some reason I think my sat nav took me through the back roads because the main road, I think there had been an accident on the M1.
Right.
And to get me past that, it took me on the main roads and I ended up in Milton Keynes. But between this place that I left, I think it was Watford, and Milton Keynes and the back roads, for some time I was out in the country in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I mean, for as far as the eye could see, there were no lights.
Yes.
Anyway.
Was it dark though?
Yeah, it was really dark. It was about 8 o'clock
so
at
you
night.
couldn't really see that far then?
Why not? It's countryside.
Okay, as far as the eye could see, but you could see the landscape. Oh,
okay. Up to the horizon, as far as
right, so you could see the horizon. Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
There are no lights. I mean, usually in the UK, you can't drive without seeing something because a few miles away there'll be lights or something. But in this place,
a crowded country, aren't we?
It's a crowded country. In this place, there's absolutely nothing. Now, I wasn't worried about it. I just thought to myself, if the car conks out, it's going to be interesting because I don't know if I have a cell phone signal. But I wasn't worried. Okay, no. Don't get the impression I was worried. I was just one of those thoughts that, how long would I have to wait before another car showed up? Well, whatever. So I was driving along. And if you remember, I told you the story that I got this part of the road. And then out of the bushes came a bird flying about 2 feet off the ground. You remember the story?
Bird.
A bird. And as it flew, now I'm going to turn to my left, but the bird turned to its right.
Okay.
So as it flew, it kind of looked at me and went, hey,
for those who are listening rather than watching, Tayo's demonstrating. He's demonstrating the flight of a bird, and it's like raising its head in acknowledgement, like
hello.
Hey,
it's like,
hi, how you doing?
How you doing? And kind of smiled. It sort of smiled, right? So as it went, like it went there.
It sort of smiled.
A bird
smiles. Okay.
And it was flying straight, but looking at me.
Yep.
So it's flying straight and looking at me and going, huh? And I was like, what in the name of sweet Jesus is that? Right? Yeah. I'm not even Christian. But I was like, what is that? And I got onto the phone straight away and I called my wife and I said, look, man, I've just seen something that you can't explain, okay? Birds shouldn't grin. I mean, who's ever seen a grinning bird? How does it grin? What the hell is that about? Right? No. And why is it flying level and looking away at me? And why is it saying, like, basically, like, hey, how you doing? In my headlights. So I've seen something really weird, and I told you about it. He seems to have forgotten. And I was on the phone to my wife straight away, telling her I've just seen it and trying to describe this really peculiar thing. So if people tell me that they've seen something peculiar, I'm not going to poo-poo that because I've seen something peculiar. I don't know. You're not.
But isn't it true, however? And in the case of these people seeing this supposed Mothman, and in your case seeing this weird bird coming out, it's not full daylight, is it? It's dusk.
No, it was caught in my headlights.
Yeah, and that doesn't give true images. We see shadows in certain ways. We see different lighting scenarios that our eyes are just not used to. So our brain, because it's nighttime or getting dark, plays this primary instinct show reel in our head that it puts the worst fear in us because it raises our protection level. We're ready for fight, flight, or freeze mode because we've seen something we aren't sure of what it is. And that's the problem. We're not sure because our eyes are just not good enough to determine what it is.
I'm not sure what I saw.
Well,
I mean, you might not be because you don't even seem to be taking this idea of the thing grinning at me.
That I'm not sure about.
You're not exactly. You're not feeling what I felt. That birds. See, straight away, I thought birds don't do that, right?
Well,
and birds can't be 7 foot tall.
No, not
exactly.
Really.
It's not an ostrich. What the heck, man? And then it flew. Ostriches don't fly.
No.
So saying that
Herons
it's a
do, though.
bird, I say
Herons
that,
do.
yeah, but a 7-foot heron? I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
it is unusual. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not poo-pooing it at all. It's there are factors here that
Okay, should I
could.
tell you why I dismissed the story? It's not because they were driving around in the middle of the night.
Well, can I add something else? Because there was actually another witness, and I'll read this out. On the same night, Newell Partridge, who lived 100 miles to the north of Point Pleasant, believed the same creature was responsible for the disappearance of his German shepherd called Bandit. Partridge first saw the creature in a field next to his house in Doddridge County and shone a flashlight on it, revealing its huge red eyes reflecting back at him.
Huge.
His dog went out to investigate in the field, but never returned.
Could it be a giant owl with huge red eyes?
Well, it could have been, but where would this Alsatian German Shepherd disappear to?
Well, owls. If it got a 7-foot owl, for goodness sakes, an Alsatian is no problem. Have you seen the
Well,
talons and those things?
he never came back, never found it.
Yeah. Well, you won't find it because it's on this giant owl's nest somewhere in bits and pieces.
Alsatian's not an insignificant sized dog, is it? A German Shepherd is huge.
Huge.
Even
I
an
don't think
owl
it's
would
bigger.
struggle with something as big as that.
It's not bigger than no, I said it's 7-foot owl.
Yeah. I doubt
So
if it'd
if
be
you
an
had a
owl.
one-off, if you had a one-off owl that had gigantism,
Yeah.
the owl equivalent of gigantism,
Mm.
yeah, you could pick up an Alsatian just very, very easy. In fact, you're lucky it didn't pick up humans in that kind of size.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, though. There are.
And when you say huge eyes, you start thinking about, owl,
Yeah,
night
owls got
creature.
big eyes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, night creature, likes the night, don't come out in the day, hiding away somewhere. What is a bit unbelievable is that it was able to hide and not be seen during the day.
Hmm.
But what lends it some kind of weight? How long do owls live? Gigantism usually results in a shortened lifespan.
It does.
So
Yeah,
if this
it
thing
does.
migrated somewhere and died in the jungle in the Amazon somewhere, who knows? It's gone.
Yeah. It's funny that you said about the owl. There's actually near the TNT area, and I must stress this is the area in this location, not us as a show. Where this Mothman was first spotted, they're surrounded, would you believe, by the McClintic Wildlife Management Area. It's actually a bird sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's full of owls.
Mm-hmm.
So this is adding more credence to your thesis. Could this be a giant owl? And
Also,
go on.
No, go on. And
Oh, well, and the people who've claimed to have seen the creature spoke of having this bright red eyes. And as ornithologists have confirmed, many birds' eyes become red when caught by a flashlight or headlights. So as these creatures were seen at night, that then strengthens the idea of it being a big bird and possibly an owl, seeing as the owls were in the vicinity anyway.
yeah, and it doesn't have to have been 4 feet first. It doesn't have to have been 7 feet tall, by the way. Anything that's really unusual, let's say 4.5 feet, so 5 feet, that could be magnified in people's memories.
Owls are big beasts, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Big.
And, yeah, I've seen them.
I've seen them close up. They're massive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get the smaller ones, but I've seen about a 3.5 foot, almost 4 foot owl. They're massive birds.
Exactly what I'm saying. It only needed to be another couple, say another 1.5 foot or something, and the imagination will take care of the rest.
Yeah. There was a further story about.
And what's one special thing about owls that is I think only owls have it when they fly. Do you know there's something special about the flights of an owl? Do you know what it is?
No.
It's soundless.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
Yeah. the shape of and form of an owl's feathers
Yep.
renders its flight silent.
Wow.
Even when it flaps its wings, you can't hear anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, that's why
Interesting.
they're such blooming good hunters. The prey never hears anything.
Wow. Incredible. Let me give you a little bit more about this Mothman. It was spotted for over a year.
18
And
months I've got, yeah.
yeah, from up to December 1967.
That's correct.
And a lot of people were obviously thinking that the Mothman, so-called this creature, was there to either warn them that something bad was going to happen, or it was the cause of something bad. And I'll elaborate on what actually did happen. On December the 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge, which spanned the Ohio River and connected Point Pleasant with the Gallipolis in Ohio, suddenly collapsed, killing 46 people on that bridge.
Mm.
And the bridge collapsed during rush hour, full of traffic, people returning from home, going out to do Christmas shopping, etc. And they found the collapse was a defective eye bar that had cracked and brought the whole bridge down. But they believe that the Mothman was part of the role of the bridge falling. Some witnesses to the collapse say they saw the Mothman right by the bridge just before the disaster struck. So somehow linking the bridge's collapse to the Mothman. However, after this disaster, the Mothman was never seen again, which is really strange.
As omens go, it's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, the Mothman shows up, doesn't say anything, doesn't communicate, doesn't go bridge, doesn't make any sound, doesn't inscribe bridge in the air, but fancy gyrations and things. Doesn't telepathically send this message, beware the bridge. Nothing.
The link is very loose. Yes, I agree.
The heck out of people, and then maybe showed up on the day that the bridge collapsed. And what was big for a town of say 4,000 people, and 46 people died, which is 1% basically of the population. So that's pretty big for the town. But for the rest of us, although it's interest, I suppose, it's not really world shattering. It's 46 people. It's not,
Well,
a good train
it's still
crash.
Tragic for the people that died.
Of course it is. I'm not poo-pooing the tragedy. I'm just saying that for us, realistically, we get bigger numbers from train crashes and things. Buses in third world countries routinely take off 100 people, easy. So it's like, it might be big for them in Point Pleasant, but really,
Let me.
a lot of palaver to go to.
I mean, so what's your? I mean, we've spoken on this one quite a bit now.
I think that was Gallipoli, by the way. I think it's pronounced Gallipoli. I'm not sure. I don't know if the S is silent or not.
Oh, okay.
Gallipolis. I think it's Gallipoli. But I may be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, before we wrap up on this particular one, there is another thing that actually almost dismisses the story altogether as far as a witness is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
There was a chap called David Piles, and he recorded that his grandfather didn't believe in this Mothman story. He believed it was just a big bird, heron, owl, whatever it may be. And what he did, he actually shot a huge owl that he shot it and stuffed it and hung it on his house wall. And from the moment that the owl was shot, and it was a big beast that his grandfather caught, there was no more sightings of the Mothman.
No, I didn't even know that. So
so that would imply that possibly it was a big bird, such as an owl, as this story recounts, and it wasn't a man at all. It was a big owl.
Good old Occam's razor.
Yes, indeed. So what's your conclusion about the Mothman then?
Owl.
Is it owl?
Owl.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, like a lot of people, you see things and
I
you're a
didn't
bit,
even know about the owl thing, about this chap shooting the owl, and that was the end of the
yeah, apparently
Mothman
came
thing.
up a bit later, and
Yeah.
because
I wish
they
we had
managed to
pictures of
piece
the
it.
owl then. That would have been interesting.
Yes, it would have been certainly. But there we go. Okay, we've done that one. Let's talk about another one now. Is there a beast roaming Bodmin Moor in the UK? Tayo, what do you think about this? You've probably heard this. It's quite famous as a
I have heard
story.
it. I think it started in the 70s when I was in A-level college, I think. That's when we started hearing about the Bodmin beast. I may be wrong, but I think it was the late 70s. And what do I think about it? I think there was something out there for a while, but I don't believe it's a cryptid. I
No.
think it was some kind of cat, one of the cat's family,
Okay.
possibly a jaguar or something like that. It should have been
Panther or
panther, yeah, something like that.
hmm.
Probably a private collector of some sort. Thing got loose. He couldn't exactly start sort of going to the press and saying, "But I've lost my illegally um, housed
Yeah.
um, pet." So
I
I mean,
mean,
nobody actually got mauled or anything. So then
oh,
again,
well, animals got killed for sure.
some animals were not, but no human got mauled. And
No,
there's this
thankfully
famous
not.
is it, um, grainy film where you
Hmm.
actually see a black shape crossing a field,
Yes, that's right. Which
uh,
tend to, it was bigger than a cat. It was much
much
bigger.
bigger than a cat.
So it did look like some wild cat,
Hmm.
panther, exotic cat is the
Yeah,
term, isn't
exotic
it?
cat.
So there genuinely could have been a panther or a jaguar or equivalent
Hmm.
on the moor, because this moor is not exactly small. It's several hundred miles square. So if there were any exotic animals on the moor, for sure they could evade capture for quite a while. But they did do investigations because there was a farmer who lost a lot of cattle that he used to allow to roam on the moor. And, you know, at the time, this is going back in the 70s.
Uh-huh. So it was the 70s.
Yeah, it was the 70s. Late 78, I think it was,
There we go.
or
Yeah.
79, something like that.
Hmm.
And, but they, he lost cattle.
Hmm.
And so, I mean,
I
years
think
later,
they
they did
have to have been calves
investigations.
rather than actual. I mean, pa- panthers can actually kill a full-grown cow,
Yeah.
but I think they'd rather sort of go after a calf or something because it's just so much easier.
Hmm. So it
So,
wasn't your cat at home for sure.
no.
It was
No.
certainly a big old beast,
Hmm.
but evaded capture. Now the thing is, I mean, you're talking about over 60 sightings of this thing, so it's not
Hmm.
insignificant, and people have seen it. Granted, back then they didn't have phones like we have today, so people couldn't capture any footage directly. Although much later somebody did, and but as you rightly say, it was quite grainy because these were phones that aren't as good as they are today. They were your first or second generation phones, which very simple cameras, so the quality was quite poor. But certainly there was a farmer called John Goodenough, great name.
Hmm.
He'd lost over £1,000 worth of livestock from this wild cat, and he
Hmm.
believed it was a cat because initially they were saying it was maybe dogs, wild
Hmm.
dogs, but they did do some checks on the dead animals, and it's not like a dog, because if a dog attacks a sheep, which is also what happened, you get fur, not fur, you get wool all over the place. It's a mess.
It's a
This thing,
mauling.
yeah, it's a mauling. Whereas with the cat, it's cleaner.
It's
You
cleaner.
get,
It's a
yeah,
surgical strike,
it is. It's
and
far cleaner.
it's always going. I think. See, so okay, there's no reason why it wouldn't be a jaguar,
Go
and
on.
that is that the jaguar has a very distinct way
Colouring
of killing.
and colouring as well. Surely it would be
Well,
spotted.
the way you'd know as a jaguar is the way it kills. Jaguars actually bite down through the skull into the brain.
Oh, wow.
That's how they kill. The Native American term jaguar actually translates into something to do with brain or something, or head smasher or something, I think. I'll look it up in a moment. I think that's what it actually translates into. Because I'm demonstrating for people who are not watching this how it comes down the head and bites through the skull and everything, and it can actually do that with its got the teeth and it's got the musculature in its jaws to achieve that. So I think we would have very quickly known that we were looking at a jaguar's kills. So that now that I think about it, that sort of poo-poos the idea that it was a jaguar. So far more likely to be a cougar, which kills in the classic way, which is to
throat.
Go for the throat and to cut off the air supply.
Yeah.
And to choke the animal to death.
There was also Mrs. Rhodes from Ninstone's farm said that the beast also killed 10 of her sheep and that she had seen it herself. Its eyes are great yellow orbs and it has a foul scream like a woman's scream, but 100 times magnified.
That's actually the cougar. Did you know that?
Well,
no, that's actually the sound that cougars make. I wrote an article. That's actually the sound that they make. They scream. Cougars. Some people argue they're not even true cats, and I'll tell you why. Because no, it's not that they argue they're not true cats. The thing about cougars is that they don't roar. Okay, so cats
they scream.
Cats purr. Lions roar. I don't remember what the tiger does.
Roar as well?
Sorry?
Roar as well, I would have thought.
I don't think they do.
Really?
I don't think tigers roar. I think they just purr very loud. I don't know what they do when they're attacking. Snarl? Well, I don't know what you'd call it. I might be wrong. Well, cougars in particular sound like women screaming. That's the sound you hear in the mountains in America. And you guys go, oh, that's a cougar. Especially when males are being territorial.
Yeah.
And they're telling other males to back off. They let out this high-pitched scream.
But wasn't a lot of the sightings of this big cat, they said it was black, whereas cougars don't tend to be black?
They don't tend to be, but it could have a color pigmentation that made it unusual. The funny thing about a leopard, for instance, is that leopards that are black, they're amazing. You can still see the spots.
Oh, wow.
They're black. Yeah, even though they're black. But leopards don't scream. I don't know what leopards do, but they don't scream.
Yeah.
And they don't really roar either because they like to be very quiet.
The thing is, these
the other
sightings...
thing that likes to be noisy is actually a cougar. Cougars, like I said, they're territorial, so they scream.
The thing is, the sightings have been going on for a while. Actually, I was incorrect. I got the year a bit early. It wasn't from 78. It was 83 onwards.
83,
My
was
apologies. Yeah, 1983.
I remember
in and around that time. So the thing is, you see,
no longer at school. That sounds kind of weird. But anyway,
83 was when the first sightings apparently.
Was it?
Yeah, but there was an investigation. I mean, as I said, this went on for a while. And in 1994, a member of the Parliament for Cornwall, his name was Paul Tyler, reacted to the concern of the farmers' stories about losing livestock and something needs to be done about it. So he convened a conference and got people round and tried to address the matter. And in 1995, in January, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, at the time, that was its name, thought that the sightings were serious enough to commission an investigation because so many people had reported that this thing they'd seen this creature and there was evidence of animals being killed. So they decided to do a full-blown investigation. And they got some biologists and a zoologist to head up the investigation. And they looked at the available evidence at the time, which included speaking to those who said they'd seen this big cat. And they examined sheep carcasses that were killed by it and the tracks that were left behind when the animals were attacked. And they tried to work out the scale of this animal. And what they came back with was there's no verifiable evidence for the presence of a big cat. Which is interesting. And they said there's no threat to livestock from a big cat, which seemed to be strange, considering there was evidence and they'd examined animals and livestock which had been killed because of a big cat. For them to come to that conclusion sounded a bit strange. But what the two people, experts, the biologist Simon Baker and zoologist Charlie Wilson, said that the carcasses did not show any signs of being mauled by big cats, and the tracks that were found related more to dogs than they did to cats. So that was the official conclusion. And it was peculiar, and any photographs that were captured in the intervening time frame, they said looked like dogs as opposed to cats. Now, obviously, this actually upset quite a lot of people because it is implying that the government were, in so many words, disbelieving these people and calling them idiots, that they couldn't determine what they were seeing.
That film that we're talking about earlier, that doesn't show the
That's
dog.
not a dog, is it? No,
that's not a dog.
It's not a dog.
Looking at a thing. So, you can't tell me what I'm looking at isn't what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so they didn't actually conclude that it was cats. All they did say was if there were any exotic cats present on Bodmin Moor, they were probably descendants of cats released because of the 1976 Dangerous Wild Animals Act. So, and they thought, and to be honest, most of the locals thought it was a government cover-up, shoddy, almost designed to not affect tourism.
That sounds like the government.
That sounds more like what the government would do. And so, yeah, they
government run by idiots, idiots.
They didn't, and the locals didn't like it because it was making them out to be stupid.
Well, no, I'm just being me. I don't mean that.
There was some physical evidence, though. They found some physical evidence. A 14-year-old boy in the 1990s, late 1990s, found a skull of an unusually large cat in that area. And they questioned, could this be the remains of the beast itself? Although it was several years later. The skull, I don't have a picture of it. Well, I do, but it's not great. It's not much point of sharing it. But I think if you go and do a search on the internet, you'll probably do a search for the Bodmin cat or beast, Bodmin Moor beast. You'll probably find the skull image of it, and the lower jaw is missing, but the top part is there. And it certainly would add up to being a cougar or a puma or something along those lines. Certainly not a house pet, but something considerably bigger. And so that would imply that. And that's exactly what the findings seem to suggest. So, and it was studied at the Natural History Museum in London, and they confirmed it was the genuine skull from a leopard.
A leopard?
A leopard. However, what they did go on to say was this cat skull, even though it was a leopard skull, the cat did not die in Britain because it had been killed elsewhere and brought to Bodmin and planted. How they knew this or determined this, because they found the eggshells inside the skull from a cockroach that did not natively come from the north of Europe. So this leopard must have been somehow brought into the UK in someone's luggage or something along those lines and planted in Bodmin Moor to cause this. They probably relied on the fact it would be found, hence continuing the story of the beast of Bodmin.
Or
Or
the leopard came from a private collection, which we think it escaped from a private collection, where someone had been storing things illegally and somehow got contaminated cockroach eggs with it, hatched it wherever its lair was, and that way had these eggs on it when it died.
possibly. I mean, I
Just
think
like
you're actually hitting the right
alternatives.
alternatives actually, because what was discovered much later, which seems to probably put the whole story to bed, but I'd love to hear your opinion on this. 3 pumas, a mating couple and an additional male, were released into the wild around Dartmoor by the famous circus owner, Mary Chipperfield, after her zoo in Plymouth was closed in 1978.
And she just released these wild animals into the countryside.
While the cats were being taken to their new home, Chipperfield decided to release 3 of them into the wild.
Now, did she go to prison?
Unfortunately, she's died now. A breeding pair and another male.
It's irresponsible nonsense.
Bodmin's a huge place, but yeah. And so the breeding pair, another male. Now, Danny Bumping of the British Big Cat Society told the Telegraph in 2016 about how these pumas had come to be seen in Bodmin Moor. In the 70s, Plymouth Zoo was owned by the Chippendales, the circus family. When the zoo was shut down, Mary Chipperfield agreed to transfer her 5 pumas to Mr. Daw at Dartmoor Wildlife Park, 5. However, when they arrived, Mr. Daw said there were only 2 pumas in the consignment, even though they were expecting 5 in total. Mary Chipperfield told Daw she had broken down on Dartmoor and that somehow 3 of the pumas had escaped. And they believe she let them out on the moor. Now, Mary Chipperfield died in 2014, but her husband disputed this story as totally false and said his late wife would never have released wild animals in this manner. So they are wondering, could it be that there could be another reason? All 5 of the pumas actually made it to the zoo, but were then subsequently, due to an error or something going wrong there, 3 escaped from there, as opposed to the story that the owner of the wildlife centre said that only 2 had arrived in the first place. So who do you trust? Was it Mary Chipperfield actually letting 3 out because she felt sorry for them? Or was there an error at the recipient wildlife park that they couldn't deal with 5 and so accidentally or on purpose?
Of course, I'm MGTOW, so I always suspect the female.
Oh, that's rather harsh.
Emotional creatures, and they're like, oh, poor things, just let them go. Never caring that they're going to endanger others. So that's my first protocol. Let me correct myself about something I said earlier.
Okay.
It's I'll read out the correction. It's from How Stuff Works, all one word, howstuffworks.com. You go in there and you search for, what did I search for? I searched for why do cougars scream? So this is what it says. Underneath a cat's tongue is a bone called a solid hyoid, HYOID. Solid hyoids attach to the windpipe and help the animal vocalize. Instead of solid hyoids, large cats have flexible cartilage that can vibrate in the oral space, allowing lions and other big cats to roar. However, cougars can't produce a deep roar because they have solid hyoids, and the females scream. So remember I said it was a male to mark the territory? No. According to this article in howstuffworks.com, it's the female that screams to alert males that there's some rumpty available if they stop by. And,
it's a mating call.
if they want to stop by and say hello. So female, that would have been so. If the scream alerts me to the fact that it was a cougar, and because
not a puma, because they're very closely related.
Yeah, I suppose. I just suppose.
Because the puma is black, whereas a cougar is not. But they're both they're very closely related, the two cats. Almost similar in size, almost similar in build. Sorry?
The cougar lives in the difference is where they live.
Yes.
Natively.
Yeah.
The cougar lives in North America and the puma lives in South America, correct?
I believe so, yes. So because the pumas, because the Bodmin Moor creature was black, everybody would say it was black. I would tend more for them to be pumas than cougars.
Funnily enough, a cougar is actually called Puma concolor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, cougar concolor. This is from Wikipedia.
Wow.
So this is a kind of puma.
Okay.
So there you go. So I suppose then that the female puma screams like the female cougar. To advertise. There you go. So
thing is,
Bodmin
Moor. So
creature.
Yeah,
definitively proved in TNT's inimitable way. Very large suppositions and unfounded leaps of logic, untested propositions. I think I'm happy to go along with. We always knew it was a big cat. I think most people would have said it was a big cat of some sort. The amazing thing is that it evaded detection, but it's not so amazing in the sense that when you have in India, you had a killer leopard that I believe dispatched over 400 people.
Wow.
And it wasn't that easy to catch.
Yeah.
So these guys are really good at hiding. These cats, they're really good. If they lie still in the bush, apparently you can walk within feet and never know it was there.
Indeed.
They're that good at hiding. So it's not that, and I don't think we ever had, did we ever get a proper tracking team, proper hunters?
No.
We never did all that.
No.
From the Americas, people who would actually know how to look for this creature and to hunt it down. We didn't do that either. So
no. We let it be, really.
It wasn't bothering anyone apart from a few farmers.
A few farmers, for sure.
They had insurance, so what the hell?
Well, yeah. What I do want to check is how big is Bodmin Moor? I didn't actually get that information, just so that we can compare. How big is it? It's here we go. It's 208 square kilometers. So that's quite a big area. It's not it's not the most enormous space in the world, but enough. There's enough greenery, there's enough shrubs, there's enough trees for easily animals to hide away. And if it was true that these pumas were indeed released and acclimatized, because obviously the UK is not
kind of cool.
Yeah, just a bit cool for their normal habitat, but they were seen there for quite a number of years. So it does beg the question that they did manage to survive quite well. Maybe they found reasonable shelter, they weren't out obviously in view. They were some hole or some little cave or some rocks that they found that they made a hideaway. And who knows? There was 3 of them initially. Could there have been more than 3? Did the mating couple had pups or cubs or whatever they're called?
Mm.
And so they bred, if that was the case. We don't know, because I'd be intrigued to know if there's any sightings today. Have we had any today? Do you know? I don't know.
No, it's been a while.
It has been a while, hasn't it? Maybe they did die off in the end. Maybe they managed to breed for a while. I don't know how long pumas live for, if it was indeed pumas. We've speculated that they're pumas, but we haven't categorically 100% said that they are. But the likelihood is it could be pumas, based on the mating call, which you've just described, the fact that the people that have seen it have all said it's a big black cat, but bigger than a cat, always black.
The black guy, I see.
No.
I want to correct myself. The leopard that is most pernicious leopard man-eater killed 20 humans in 1901. So that figure of 400. But that figure of 400 was for a tiger, not for a...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tiger.
And if you go to leopard attack in Wikipedia, if you have a stomach for that sort of thing, there is a picture of the leopard on top of its last victim, a child.
Oh.
It was killed whilst killing the child. And there's a picture of that in Wikipedia, leopard attack.
Oh dear, I don't think I'll be going there, but maybe our listeners and viewers will be happier to do that. Okay, we are now getting to the top of the hour. So, conclusion, Tayo, what's your view about the beast?
I think the TNT talk show has done some blooming sterling work here this evening.
Okay.
I really do think that we should pat ourselves on the back. I think we solved the issue of the Mothman.
Yes.
And I'm happy that it was an extra large owl.
Yep.
And I think we solved the issue of the Bodmin, beast of Bodmin. Is it Bodmington? What's it called again?
The beast of Bodmin Moor.
Bodmin Moor, the beast of Bodmin Moor.
Yeah.
I think I'm perfectly happy that we solved that too, and that it was a human.
Yes, indeed. I'm of the same opinion. I think we have done some sterling work today. Absolutely. So yes, indeed. Okay, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.